Welcome to Fraudulent Feelings with Fatima podcast, where we dive into real conversations that shape our professional and personal lives. I'm your host, Fatima Nash, and today we're exploring a topic that so many of us wrestle with, yet rarely discuss openly: imposter syndrome. Have you ever felt like you're not good enough, like your success is a result of luck, or that you don't truly deserve your accomplishments? You're not alone. Imposter syndrome impacts high achievers, leaders, professionals at all levels, and even the ones who seem to have it all together. In this episode, we'll break down what imposter syndrome is, how it sneaks into our mindset, and most importantly, how you can push back against it. Together, we'll share insights, stories, and actionable strategies to help you embrace your worth and own your success. So grab your favorite drink, settle in, and let's get into it. Hello and welcome to Fraudulent Feelings with Fatima, a podcast where we chat with Fatima's friends about imposter syndrome. On our show today, we have my girl, Caroline. She is an executive HR consultant. Caroline, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks, Fatima. Caroline DeBauche, currently an HR consultant with some past roles within HR leadership, which is how Fatima and I got to know each other as coworkers and then as friends. So I'm excited to be here to dig in with you.
Yes, thank you for being here. So, as you know, I have just a teeny bit of an issue with imposter syndrome. While I've had great roles, I work with you, I've worked in consulting, I've worked in operations and marketing and PR, and every time I still have the same heebie-jeebies. I still have the same nerves, I have the same thoughts, even when I'm going through the interview. Am I going to be good enough? Am I asking for too much money? Am I valuable enough? And so when I think back to happy anniversary, by the way, it's been 5 years that we've been hanging out together.
Wow.
So yeah, I
Gosh,
can't
that's
believe
wild
it,
because
right?
I remember our phone interview like it was yesterday. So
Yeah. And I remember saying, I'm probably not going to get this job. After I got off the phone with you, that's what I thought. I was like, I don't know. This guy told me to go talk to this HR person, and I probably don't have what it takes. I don't have a ton of the software experience that they're probably looking for. I don't know enough about all this stuff. I probably am not going to get the
isn't
job.
that wild? And my reaction was the complete opposite, is she is perfect to help build our organization what we need.
Yeah. And so I'm still hanging out with some of our friends, as you know. And so it's crazy to celebrate 5 years. It's been a lot of things have happened in 5 years. So Caroline, from your executive standpoint and you working not only, you've done recruiting, you've done strategic work with executives, and you've done coaching as well. Can you tell me what you've seen in this space in regards to imposter syndrome?
Yeah, and it's funny, Fatima, because as I was, thinking about what I was going to say and what we were going to talk about, I Googled it. What is imposter syndrome? So I'd love to just read the definitions I've been
Yeah,
sitting with
yeah,
it. That
yeah.
it is a psychological phenomenon characterized by persistent feelings of self-doubt, inadequacy, and a fear of being exposed as a fraud despite evidence of one's accomplishments. And so just grounding myself in that one, I obviously am in the people space, so I see it all. But two, I feel like it's ironic you asked me to be it because I feel like I have imposter syndrome almost every day.
No way.
In my current role.
No
So it's
way.
like I think I joke when you said, I'm like, oh, do you want me to talk about this because I have imposter syndrome? Or like
You did say that. You did say that.
are you looking for people whose problem that is? So Candace, you and I have always been real. I have it all the time. And I see it all the time. But I do think, and then I thought about, all right, what do I do or what have I, especially consulted other people to do to kind of get past it? And I think there are several different things. I've thought there's kind of 5 different buckets of things. And I know that you and I have, have stories on each one of them. But like in short, I think it's knowing who you are, knowing what your strengths are, and finding way to elevate your strengths. And we can talk about strengths.
Mm-hmm.
But also knowing what you're not good at, and being comfortable with saying, you know what, that like I'm gonna reach out to other people. And so the second half of that is like leveraging your support network, finding people that can be honest with you, that can be real with you, that give you feedback that's helpful and encouraging. I mean, you and I have that all the time. You know what I'm good at, you know what I'm not. You're a great sounding board. So finding people to support you and people that are really good at things that you're not. I think those are the two kind of biggest, and we can dive into it, but the two biggest things, like knowing who you are and what you're really good at. And then knowing things that don't bring you joy or don't energize you, and finding the people and the support system around you to help you.
Yeah, no, I love that. And you're right. Like, we can go into great detail about these buckets and many more. And we have. So lucky for our listeners, they get to hear from the real. Um, I feel like in my experience with imposter syndrome, and I don't know if this goes for you too, I know that I'm supposed to go to my community, but I'm scared to go to my community because I don't want them to know that I don't know. Even though I might not be a whiz kid at, like, I don't know, PowerPoint, like I really freaking suck at it. Like for real, like I'm 45 years old and please don't ask me to create a deck from scratch. I will throw up at a blank sheet of paper. Um, but I don't want to go to a buddy at work and ask them, even though they're in my community, because I'm embarrassed. So like, what should someone like me do in a situation like that?
I think that's everybody has their PowerPoint, right? Or their Excel, or their whatever, their grammar, their ability to write, whatever it is. What I do and see and would recommend is, not saying, hey, I suck, but who is the person that has the most beautiful PowerPoint that takes a really complex subject and make it into this beautiful visual? Who is that? And saying not, hey, I suck, you don't need to,
Right. Don't
but
down
more so
yourself.
like, how do you do that? How do
Right.
you, where, how do you start? Or so being really inquisitive and curious, more so than saying, I don't know how to do it, but just, hey, I want to get better. How do I do it?
Yeah.
So I think it's just the curiosity and ability to kind of ask questions from a learning point. People who are good at PowerPoint, they want to, whether it's, whatever the subject is, like chances are they want to talk about how good they are at something. So it's a great
That's right.
opportunity for you to make that connection, learn from them without necessarily telling them, hey, I don't know how to do this, and they get the opportunity to kind of shine. Um,
Yeah. I love
and
that. I love that because I tend to think negative first about myself, which is why I have imposter syndrome. And I am very transparent, almost too transparent, probably. And so I wear that on my sleeve and say, hey, I don't know how to do this. Please help me. I suck at this. But when you say that out loud and you put that in the universe, you're putting your negative connotations on yourself that's not necessary. The facts are the
agreed.
facts. You need help. You don't have to be negative about it. You don't have to down yourself in the process. And that was something I had to learn. I had to really teach myself to say positive things inside
Well,
when
and
I'm
and let
having a
me
tough moment.
push back. Do you really need help? Probably
Uh,
not.
Probably not.
You think you need help, but
Mhm.
is there another person over here like, I think Fatima's PowerPoints, or
Right. Or
insert whatever it
whatever.
is, are great,
Insert.
you
Fair.
know?
Fair.
I question you, like, I need help. I bet you really don't. You just want to
Right.
get even better. So
Right.
absolutely don't need to
Yeah.
lead with negativity. Lead with curiosity, and seek
Yeah.
out people whose skill set are better than yours.
Yeah. And be nice to yourself. Right. So
Yeah.
when you think about imposter syndrome in the recruitment cycle, where have you seen that show up?
Let's just be really frank. Recruiting and interviewing is so awkward, and it's so uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for the candidate. As somebody who's had hundreds of recruiting, it's uncomfortable for me. It's like you
Mhm.
feel like you lying about yourself, even though you're not, but you're trying to like sell yourself in an
Right.
uncomfortable way.
Right.
The compensation
Right.
discussions are really awkward, and
Right.
like it's so difficult. So ideally, as a candidate, you're talking with a recruiter that acknowledges that, right? And makes you
Mm-hmm,
feel
mm-hmm,
comfortable.
mm-hmm,
So I think it's finding that balance of being authentic,
mm-hmm,
but that is your shot. You
mm-hmm,
have to lead with your strengths. You absolutely have to
mm-hmm,
sell yourself, and it is going to be uncomfortable.
mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but I think it's being really intentional, and that question is also leaded to like when we, I'm a certified strengths coach. As you know, we've done lots of
Mm-hmm.
coaching, and you helped me build a strengths program at our previous organization. But it's a strength, but again, what energizes you? Not like I'm so good at this, but this is what I love to do. And think
Mm-hmm.
about, what do I love to do,
Mm-hmm.
and what are those results?
Mm-hmm.
That authenticity of like, I love to find things that are broken and create a process that's sustainable and solution, and here's why I do it. I'm using an example that we both get absurdly excited about.
Yeah.
Most people probably don't. But if you say that as opposed to like, I'm so good at this, I mean, that is
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
people can see your true emotion and who you are, but that's not selling yourself. You're just talking about what you like to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's being vulnerable, right? And being
Yeah.
honest. And I think that in a society where perfection is something that we try to achieve, and let's be real, there's no such thing. Like it's all bullshit. It's not, I promise you. It's like we were before we pressed record, I got up and got water and was like, look, I got my leggings on. People think I'm dressed, but I'm working from home, right? You have to put out a certain type of positivity and energy, and being authentic and vulnerable and real, because there's no such thing as perfect. Yes, I may be sitting on calls with very impressive people throughout my day, but I don't have on a pair of pumps at my desk. But I'm poised like I have on a pair of pumps. I'm energetic like I'm dressed in a suit, because that is the vibe that I want to give off, and it's the energy that I want people to receive from me. And so as a imposter syndrome survivor, when I'm walking into a room virtually or physically, pumps or Uggs on, I still have to practice being poised in my head and practice that positive energy, because I know that nagging, negative Nancy fraud girl in my head, she's going to tell me I'm wrong
Yep.
every single time. And
So how do you, let me put the question back on you. How do you do that? Because I agree 100%. And I can tell you that I have recently been, I mean, I can think of super successful C-suite executives that I physically have sat in a room with before that later are like, I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, you have to, everyone does that, but how do you walk into the room and have, in your your Uggs
my
to your computer
my
screen, or
yeah.
your
Mhm.
heels to your boardroom? How do you do that?
So we're about to get real deep. So you know that I am a systems freakaholic. Everything
Yes.
has to have a process. I can't help it. This is how I live. So I literally do everything backwards. I literally try to think with the end in mind. What is the outcome that I want to achieve? And I only pick
It's
one,
incredible.
because I am too, you know how my brain works, and I get all emotional, my hands get all sweaty, and I'll be crying and stuff. But I have to think, Fatima, what's the one thing, just one thing, that you have to go do out of this meeting, execute out of this meeting, um, portray in this meeting, whatever it is? What is the one thing? And I
What
don't
does
focus on
success
anything
look
else.
like at the end of this meeting if I come out with X, Y, or Z,
And
and
it
then
could
work
be that I only
backwards?
come out with Z. What if I
Sure,
only
sure.
just came out with Z? That meant that I gave all my energy to Z. So while I'm giving all my energy to Z, all the other stuff, like my palms sweating, like the fact that if you ever met me, I have stains on my clothes because I'm clumsy and I spill coffee and food everywhere all the time. I have to ignore the fact that I'm walking in with a blotchy blouse on,
Yep,
because I have to get that end goal done. And if you've met with me and hung out with me, you know I don't play around when it comes to meet my goals.
yep,
So I promise myself that's what I'll do. By me doing that, I'm able to block out the other stuff, because
sure.
what the imposter is telling me is all the ways I'm not going to be successful. And I know that I'm going to be successful at this one thing, whatever it is, whatever I made my decision on that particular day. So I
Yeah.
think it's the prep. I think it's the practice and the prep and me saying, don't be so bombarded with being perfect. Just get the one thing right. It doesn't
Yep.
matter about anything else. You came to do that one thing. Just go do that one thing.
I
So
think that's great.
that's how
Yeah.
I work it. It's not always, it doesn't always work 100% of the time. I'm still gonna sweat. I'm still gonna stutter. Like this is so crazy. I'm saying this, we're recording this, but I really feel like my tongue swells when I'm nervous because I can't articulate. Like literally, I'm like not able to move my mouth appropriately because I'm nervous, because I'm second guessing, because I'm telling myself that I don't
Yeah.
belong wherever
Yeah.
I am. And that's just
I
bullshit.
talk too
That's just
much.
nerves.
That's my big, like, and again, being vulnerable, that's
Yeah.
my feedback. I just ramble and can't stop, and then I know it, and it's yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody has that.
And
I,
don't forget, for me, I got rested in bitch face. So if I'm stressed and I have anxiety and you join a call, you're like, dang, what's wrong with
oh,
her?
what's
Like,
wrong with
what?
her?
You don't know I
Yeah.
got this voice in my head that's going on. And I don't even know how my face is structured. I'm just looking really mean, but I'm thinking and I'm processing because I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to make a mistake. I want to fit in. I mean, let's be real. We are all 17-year-olds in high school just wanting to hang out with the cool kids. That's what this is
Yep.
all about, is that we
Yeah.
just want to feel like we belong, that we have a sense of community, that people like us, that we do good work, that we're valued. It's that simple. It really is that simple to me anyway.
I completely agree. And I think, okay, if I'm sitting here I was laughing on the inside about the coffee stain. I walked into a board meeting with literally had spilled coffee all down my nice blouse and like it was, yeah, business professional. So you're there. But I think, if I'm thinking that and you're thinking that, everyone's thinking that. Everybody has their something. Am I going to say this right? Or what is my face or my facial expressions or whatever that thing is. I think if
Mhm.
you just apply some humility, everybody's in the same boat. Like you said,
Everybody's in the
trying to
same boat.
fit in, trying
Hmm.
to
Hmm.
do, whatever their goal or come away with their idea of success. And so
Hmm.
everyone's just doing their best.
Hmm.
And no
Hmm.
one's
Trying to
perfect.
make it. We're all just trying to make it.
Totally.
Um, One other is not one other, because let's be real, I have a long list of inappropriate things that you probably shouldn't talk about on a recording with HR because I'm very HR compliant. Um, let's talk about money. I
Yeah.
want to talk about how my imposter syndrome has fucked up my salaries in my
Yeah.
20s and 30s
Yeah.
because I'm looking like I don't belong here. Thank you so much for the opportunity, sir, ma'am. Thanks so much. I'm just gonna just color in these lines because I don't want you to even see me because I don't belong here and I just want to try this out. Not knowing that I was by second guessing myself, not going out for promotions, not putting myself out there because I was scared. I did not set myself up for success in a lot of ways. From an HR coaching perspective, especially for those that you've coached in the senior management realm and those that you've coached on the executive side, have you seen that? Have you seen imposter play a role in similar fashions as for me in my 30s?
Absolutely. I think I'm sure I shared this with you. It's because I share it with every, not to make this a gender thing, but I've shared this with every female is that there
Yes.
is data that proves that men will apply for jobs if they have only like half of the
Hmm.
qualifications. A
Hmm.
female feels like they need to have at least 80% or more of all of the
Hmm.
qualifications in the job description. So to your point, right,
Hmm.
not even allowing yourself the ability to become an applicant for something that you're
Hmm.
qualified, that
Hmm.
pool, you've already lost out.
Hmm.
So I think just knowing that fact, what do you have to lose? I think the other thing too is like I said, money is uncomfortable.
Yeah, it is.
Now that it's a law in the majority of the states to be able to post the candidate salary ranges, I think that's a really great thing for pay transparency to try to bring some equality. I think that's a huge win because I know that there have been instances, and you're an employer, you're probably like, ooh, because you know Caroline, HR specialist, can go on and see there's another role and here's the pay range, and I'm sitting at the very bottom of it. You should absolutely use the pay transparency and the information. Go use that and do it
Absolutely.
obviously in a respectful way with key data points of why you're able, why you deserve more, or what how your value has added value to the organization. It's uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable, but everyone does it. And I
It
think you
is.
absolutely have to kind of put yourself out there and you should. So apply for that job, ask for that raise, be really thoughtful and intentional about like what I do and how do I add value that ultimately brings value or revenue or decrease costs or whatever your role is. How does my worth impact your organization for the better?
I love that. I
And
love
come up
that.
with specifics. And I think that exercise kind of ties back to imposter syndrome, right? Like you need to write down, we're less process people, but I think
We
it's
are.
so easy if you aren't intentional about celebrating your wins, however small they be, or however small they are. You aren't intentional about saying, okay, what did I accomplish this week?
Hmm.
What did I accomplish next week? If you don't make that a regular practice, you're going to forget. I forget what I did, what I ate for
Yesterday.
breakfast yesterday,
Right.
let
Right.
alone how I contributed to my organization. So I think just making it a part of your regular routine to say, this is what I did. This is an easy win. This is a big win. This is what I've done. And keep that for yourself to not only help with your imposter syndrome, but to, if you do need to make more money or you do want to go for that elevated role that you think's out of reach, doing those little practices of writing down and recognizing your accomplishments is really going to help you.
Yes, I agree with you on that, like 100%. Even in our HR systems, wherever that may be, whatever you use to record your professional development, as employees, we tend to sometimes think that the leader, your people leader or your manager is responsible for documenting and smelling your roses. And I want to tell all y'all that's listening that that is the biggest freaking bunch of bullshit that you could ever serve yourself.
Yep.
Your employer is not your parents. Your employer is not your cheerleader. Yes, your employer can aid and be an ally in cheerleading your success, but your success is your success. You have to document yourself and you have to self-reflect because that to me is the number one tool to beat imposter syndrome is to be able to go back. When you think about my favorite artists, Sean Corey Carter, Jay-Z, I just love him so much. When you go and look at all the work that Jay-Z has done, he has volumes and volumes of projects where he's got awards and accolades. It's almost like a yearbook, right? And so I am no rapper and I like to think that I have some bars, but I don't. I do a little bit of poetry, nothing comparison to the Carters, but shout out to the Carters. But I do keep a record of all the things I've done. Either their pictures
I love
or
that.
their journal entries
Yeah.
because I struggle so much remembering my successes, let alone celebrating them, right? And so when I get stuck, I have to be able to go back and say, "Oh, I remember, didn't I go through this at a job in Richmond, Virginia in 2008? What is that?" And I literally write everything down. Like, you know me. So I have journals upon journals of all types of papers. Even in my office right now, it's a cluster. But I go back and I remember my first project management job. Shout out to Royal and Company. It's no longer in business, but Bill Royal, may he rest in peace, started a direct marketing agency. And as a recent college graduate, I was able to take on my first PM job, which taught me that I was born to be a project manager. Hence hence the systems and all of that. But thinking about that time, I was terrified. Terrified. I can't be a project manager. I don't know anything about being a project manager. I don't know
Right.
anything about direct
Right.
marketing. I don't know how to do any of this. I thought that in the interview. I thought I didn't get that job. Now that I think about it, I didn't think I got that job either. So I do remember my 20s and my 30s, and I go back to my journal entries or my pictures or Facebook or whatever, and it does jog my memory and it gives me strength to say, yes, you can, because you did
Yeah.
it already.
Yeah. And guess what? And back then you didn't think you couldn't do anything.
That's right. And if I thought that at 25 and now I'm 45, woo, girl. So now, if I thought like that 20 years ago and I've had a blast of a career for the last 20 something years, then
Absolutely.
I have to say that that girl that's talking that fraud feeling shit, she's
Yep.
bogus, because
Yep.
I know for a fact that I've been able to do these things.
I
So,
love that.
yeah.
But you forget, you got to write it down and you have to
Write it
pause.
down.
And I'll tell a quick story. Shout out to Megan. So and here's another thing. If you lead a team of people in any capacity or work in a group, requesting feedback of yourself, I think that's something else to get, comfortable with. Do you have any feedback for me? How can I make you a better person? You're going to ask, and you're going to ask 5 times. And your team, they're not going to tell you right away. You have to keep asking. So as a former HR leader with a team, asked this, and a person on my team, Megan, finally, after being good colleagues and friends and on my team for over 5 years, she finally said, okay, Caroline, I have some feedback for you. I was like, great. What is it? She's like, and it's so funny. I don't even remember what it was, but like the things that Megan and I as a team accomplished is just, we implemented an HRIS system. We hired Fatima. Like just did so many things in such a high growth period for a
Very
fabulous
successful.
organization.
Yes, absolutely.
But she finally said, Caroline, can we just take 2 seconds to just like pause and celebrate like all the stuff that we've done? And it was such a reflection moment. And I go, oh my God, I don't do that, do I? She's like, no, not really. And I was like, to me, and I hope she listens to this, because to me, that is the biggest thing, where it's like, gosh, it's so easy. I think the world and everything is so fast paced, especially like the high achievers and the perfectionists. It's so easy to be like, cool, I did that. I did Z. I walked out of the board meeting, I did Z. Now I'm on X and Y.
Right.
It's
right.
like, you know what? No. I did Z, and that was damn hard, and I'm proud of it. So let's just like take a minute,
take a beat. Yes.
Acknowledge it, appreciate myself, appreciate the team. Fuck yeah, we did it.
Yeah.
And I did not do that. And I try. I'm still not very good at it, but I'm a heck of a lot better than I was before. It's just like, take a pause and celebrate your wins, even if they're the small ones. So, but that was just
I love that
moment of realization. I'm like, oh, I don't do that at all.
Oh my God. What was another moment of realization? You're gonna laugh at this or kill me. Either or, we'll see how this goes. But we are avid IMers and we're very direct. And we had to teach each other, when we're talking to other people that's not Caroline and Fatima, that you have to have a greeting. Because I'm known for not having a greeting. I don't give
You
a
don't have greetings.
I don't have greeting. Listen, for those who receive messages from Fatima, especially IMs, I never start with a greeting. I only add it at the end when I'm going to read the message before I send it. I never start with a greeting. If you get a greeting from me, it's because I forgot and I had to go add it in, because I'm ready to go. What we got to talk about? Let's just go. We're not talking about weather. We're colleagues. You're not my client. I don't need to like make you feel good. Like, what do we need to do today? Let's go. And that really, although it's not relative to imposter syndrome, it is a breakdown in communication in the workplace. And if I'm
Absolutely.
dealing with someone that has imposter syndrome and they're working with someone as direct as Fatima, they're going to feel very flattened by me. And
Sure.
even though I have imposter syndrome, they don't know I have imposter syndrome. So
No,
I'm
they're
not
like,
thinking that they
whoa,
have imposter
she's on
syndrome.
it.
Whoa,
She
she's
knows
hot.
what she wants. Yeah. And that's so funny you say that because I remember being like, whoa, good morning to you too. And then and then I was like, hey, what's up? You're like, oh, nothing. I have, I got shit to do today. I'm like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, I think that's a great point is like taking a time to understand people's perspective or, if you feel that way, hey, are you okay? Or
Yeah.
what's up? Or, and
Yeah.
figuring that out because if you get hung up on that, you're right. Then every time you're like, oh, she doesn't like me. No,
Right.
that has
I'm not
nothing
even
to do
thinking
with
about
it.
you. Right. No. But you know what? As a, if you're have imposter syndrome and you aren't an empathetic person, you may miss the imposter signs, right? And so one of the reasons why I wanted to get into this business is I've had a lot of hot-headed leaders in my career. And my personality is really strong. So I could take the pain. I could take the heat. We can go back and forth. I don't hold grudges for too long in business. Personal, I hold them, but professionally, I don't. And so I have vivid memories in my 20s and 30s where we have these hot-headed leaders that are spazzing out or being emotional. And now that I'm older and I realize that I have imposter syndrome and I bring my whole self to work. I was looking up at those leaders in my 20s and 30s being like, oh, you're really angry with me. You don't really like me. I'm really not doing a great job. But
Right.
really, they might have been struggling with imposter syndrome. And
I was
I
gonna
am
say their imposter syndrome just comes out like, hey, okay, you're kind of an asshole,
right,
and
right,
they're
right,
uncomfortable and it comes out in
right.
different ways. And it's
So
it's
we gotta
so
give people
true.
grace. We gotta give
Absolutely.
people grace. If you have imposter syndrome, if you don't have imposter syndrome, if you're a high empath like me or you're not a high empath like me, just understand how people might be showing up. Just like if you're driving in a car and someone's doing something crazy, it may not be because they're a horrible driver. It may be that they're just having a bad day. You don't know what people carry with them. And I had to really, really, really think about that as I am leading people. And sometimes I'm leading people and they're not directly reporting to me in that corporate way. But
Sure.
because of the roles that I've had, I'm the temperature setter,
You're
right?
still collaborating with them on every day and need to be a trusted partner. Yeah.
And I need to check my imposter syndrome at the door. We don't have time for that. If I'm the leader in a situation
Yeah.
and I'm hired to do a job, I gotta trust that my leadership trusted me to do the job. So I need to check. Another tip, y'all. Y'all heard that? Another tip is if your leadership that you respect has empowered you to execute XYZ and you don't have enough trust in yourself, have enough trust in the person that you're respecting that you're gonna be
Absolutely.
able to handle this. They wouldn't give it to
Yep.
you otherwise.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, we talked about it a little bit earlier about asking for help. That's
Mhm.
uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
Or lead with the negativity. But I also think as a leader, I absolutely would encourage you to kind of have a level setting conversation. What's your work style? Do you,
Mhm. Mhm.
how can I
Mhm.
best support you?
Mhm.
Is it as simple as, hey, listen, from 8 to 9, I'm unavailable because I got to take my kids to school?
Mhm.
Or is it, I like to have my focus time in the morning, but can I just IM you and check in?
Mhm.
So I think if
Mhm.
you're a leader and you're in that position, that is going to help
Mhm.
immensely
Mhm.
with imposter syndrome, with empowering your team. And if you don't have a leader, if you feel comfortable, I mean, again, you own your career, you own you. Speak up. That people want to hear that. If my team is coming up to me, and it's easier said than done, right? Like I am the
Sure.
biggest. I do not speak up well. I do not hold my boundaries well. Where I know I'm like, if I would have just said, "Hey, can I, go
Sure.
pick up my? I haven't picked up my daughter from daycare in a month. Can I just miss this meeting?" People would be like, "Of course." And so, full
Mhm.
disclosure, like
Mhm.
practice what you preach, and I don't always, but I think
Mhm.
just
Sure. Girl, human.
Being real to say, hey, I need some grace, or I need a little guide
Mm-hmm.
or guidance, or
Mm-hmm.
you know what? This is what would really be helpful. People
Mm-hmm.
want to help you. And
Mm-hmm.
by doing that, I'm going to do a great job if you know, hey, she's on it and she needs this. And just building that
Mm-hmm.
trust and credibility,
Yeah.
that's going to help too. As
Yeah, for sure.
much as you can,
And
and it is a little uncomfortable, but
yeah, you do have to try. But I will say this on the opposite side of that. If you're in a workplace that you constantly try, and you are pushing down your imposter syndrome feelings and you are executing in every which way that you possibly can, and you are not met with positivity, it may just not be your people. They may not be your community, and that's okay too.
yeah, yep.
Your boundaries will tell you when you've had
You
enough.
know, yeah,
You know. And
you
so make
know.
that decision. We're not saying stick it out and keep trying. If you don't feel like your value is being met in any circumstance, try, but then make a plan to exit because your
And you
mental
know,
well-being is more important than what other people think of you
absolutely, all day long. And that's
all
scary and
day long.
hard, but you know, you have that gut feeling, you
100%.
know what? My time
Yes.
is expired, or this isn't
Yes.
using my, abilities to the best that I can in this
Hmm.
environment.
Agreed.
Done.
So one other note, my last thought, and then I'll turn it over to you for your last thoughts on how executives and leaders can get over, you never really
Yeah.
over it, but can get some tips and tricks on how to deal with imposter syndrome. One of the couple of projects that I have going on, Caroline, we joked about that right before we recorded, is this self-care movement that I'm on. And a lot of people consider self-care as a like, mani-pedi, spa, and all of that. But to me, in addition to all of that, self-care is knowing when you've had enough. Self-care is knowing about your boundaries. Self-care
Yep.
is thinking with the end in mind. Self-care is you utilizing your tools to manage your
Yeah.
mental state, right?
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
so for me, self-care, the best way, and folks probably have seen me drink out of this water bottle and some other items I've tagged. This self-care movement I'm on, I want everybody to understand that you can develop how to live your life the best way for yourself, not by norms, not because your boss told you to, but you have to put your mask on first. In an airplane, if God forbid something's going down, you can't put your kid's mask on. You
Right.
have to put your
Yep.
mask on first. And to me, that is the ultimate self-care because when you are focused on yourself and doing what's right for yourself, other things will line up in place and you will beat your imposter syndrome.
Yep.
I say beat it. Let's be real. I say that over and over on all my shows. It's not going anywhere, but you can combat it and you can deal with
Diminish
it
it at
and
least.
diminish it,
Yeah.
minimize
Yeah.
it. Yeah. What are your thoughts
I
on that, Carol?
completely agree. And yeah, you can't, right, as I'm a mom, I'm a four, I'm a wife, I'm a full-time employee, I got a lot of things, but if I don't take time out for me, I'm gonna be a shitty wife, a shitty mom, a shitty
The
sister,
employee.
employee, all
Yeah,
the
that's
things.
right.
And that was
That's right.
hard for me, but I think just you have to take care of yourself first, and it's hard, but you do, and then you can give that much more to your people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to all
Absolutely.
of the different roles that you hold.
Yeah.
Uh, I think I now I'll have to listen to it, right? But I think I had two big buckets at the beginning. And I think the second one was like surround yourself with people that are
Mm-hmm.
supportive of you, or people
Mm-hmm.
that do things a little bit
Mm-hmm.
differently. I mean, you were my person, right? And you still are, but like when we were in the weeds every day together, is like have somebody that has a little bit different skill set than
Mm-hmm.
you,
Mm-hmm.
somebody that can bounce ideas, and somebody that can support you, whether
Mm-hmm.
that's, in your
Mm-hmm.
career or in your family. Surround
Are you
yourself.
saying diversity is important? Is that what you're saying?
I am saying that. I'm absolutely saying that.
Oh.
Absolutely, I'm saying that is find somebody that thinks differently than you, that just totally has a different perspective or point of view. Surround yourself with really good, smart, vulnerable people, or people that you feel you can be
Be
vulnerable
vulnerable
with.
with.
Yeah. So find your people. Find your
Find your
people.
people.
Find your people. Again, find your PowerPoint guru, right? Like, hey, how do you do that? Not like, I suck at this. Can I learn from
Right.
you? I want to align myself with you and figure
Yeah,
it out.
that's
And
right.
here's what I can add for you. And let's get through this together.
Yes. Caroline, I loved our dialogue and it was right on time. Will you come back
Yes,
on
what
the
we got
show?
to plan next time. Like, do we do green or purple shirts
I
next
know.
time?
Yeah. Oh, we're gonna have to figure out something. I cannot believe that this was
I love
sheer
it.
accident. Like just logged on and we're like twins. But I mean, of course we are.
Of
Like
course we are. So
you and
yes,
me.
I would love to. I am so excited to continue to watch all the incredible things that you do, and I'm excited to tune into your podcast.
Thank you. I appreciate you. All right, folks, that's it. Imposter syndrome on the job with Caroline. Caroline, if folks have questions or want advice and guidance on all things HR, how do they reach you?
Great question. I will have to, no one can probably spell my last name, but you can reach me at caroline.debush@gmail.com. So I'll have Fatima put it in the notes.
I definitely will. And you're on LinkedIn as well, so they can hit you
Yes, I
there.
am.
Too.
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn.
Wonderful. Wonderful.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you very much for tuning in to today's episode. Until next time, thank you.
We got real, y'all. Woo! Executive HR consultant Caroline shared her very personal views on imposter syndrome and how it shows up in the workplace. Please tune in to episode 3, Imposter in the Classroom, where my guest Sydney Rogers shares her views on imposter syndrome as a first-generation college student and how the weight of being a first-gen college student fuels imposter syndrome in day-to-day life. You don't want to miss her unique perspective on imposter syndrome and how it can gap the family. Stay tuned. Please subscribe and like. See you soon.